The day of my son's wedding was supposed to be filled with joy, family, and love. Instead, it was filled with shock and hurt. I arrived at the venue only to discover that I wasn't invited. My heart sank as I watched photos online, seeing him walk down the aisle with his bride while I remained on the outside, completely excluded. For years, I had poured my love, care, and sacrifices into raising him. I had celebrated every milestone, every birthday, every achievement, and yet, on the day he committed to his partner for life, I wasn't there. No call, no explanation, just a digital stream of images showing me absent from the most important day of his life. I tried to make sense of it. Perhaps it was a misunderstanding, I thought. Maybe the invitations got lost or some family drama had caused confusion. But as I scrolled through the wedding posts, the truth settled like a stone in my chest. This was deliberate. Days passed, and I tried to hide my feelings when friends and relatives mentioned the wedding. I smiled and nodded, pretending to be fine, while inside, I struggled to process the pain. How could my son, the boy I raised, the one who had once clung to me for comfort and guidance, forget to include me in something so monumental? Then came the next shock. I received a message from him, a casual text that made my heart stop. "Mom, we'd like to spend our honeymoon at your house." I stared at the screen, frozen. He had excluded me from the wedding, yet now he assumed I would host him and his new wife for the most intimate part of their marriage. The audacity, the sense of entitlement, it was almost too much to bear. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just hurt. It was a test, one I wasn't sure I was ready to face. The message lingered on my phone like a weight. "Mom, we'd like to spend our honeymoon at your house." My fingers hovered over the reply button, but no words came. How could he ask this after deliberately excluding me from the wedding? I called a close friend, seeking advice, hoping for clarity. "He's your son," she said gently, "but you need to set boundaries. Don't let him take advantage of your kindness." Her words resonated. This wasn't just a simple request. It was a test of my patience, my limits, and my self-respect. When they arrived at my doorstep a few days later, his bride trailing behind, I forced a polite smile. "Welcome," I said, hiding the storm brewing inside me. They stepped in as if they owned the place, unpacking bags, laughing, and commenting on how cozy everything was. He tried to brush off the awkwardness. "Mom, it'll just be a few days. We'll barely be here." I looked at him, calm but firm. "You didn't invite me to your wedding, yet you expect me to host your honeymoon? That's a big assumption." The silence that followed was heavy. His bride shifted uncomfortably, realizing the tension but unsure how to intervene. For the first time, he hesitated. I could see the guilt creeping into his expression, the realization that I wasn't going to passively accept this audacity. Over dinner that night, I made it clear. Boundaries had changed. I would be hospitable, yes, but on my terms. Respect had to come first, or the house that had nurtured him his entire life would not become a playground for entitlement. For the first time, I felt a sense of power and clarity. The honeymoon request had become more than a burden. It was an opportunity to reclaim my dignity and teach a lesson in respect. The first morning of their stay, the air in the house felt tense. I prepared breakfast quietly, listening as they chatted in the living room, acting as if nothing had happened. My son's casual tone grated on my nerves. "Mom, can you bring us coffee?" he called from the sofa, almost expecting me to drop everything. I paused, spat out a calm but measured response. I'll bring it, but let's be clear. This is my house. Respect comes first, and that includes how you speak and act. His face flushed. I'm just asking nicely, he said defensively. But I didn't back down. The bride looked uneasy, sensing that the honeymoon dynamic wasn't going to be smooth. She tried to mediate. Maybe we're overreacting, she whispered, but I only smiled faintly. Throughout the day, subtle tensions surfaced. He left clothes in the hallway, expecting them to be folded. He made jokes about playing host without lifting a finger. I watched quietly, recording each moment in my mind. This wasn't just about chores. It was about entitlement and the lack of acknowledgement for the years of love and care I had given. When evening came, I sat them down. Calm but unwavering, I said, "You excluded me from your wedding. You assumed you could invade my space without consideration. I'm hosting you, but the rules are clear. Respect, gratitude, and acknowledgement are not optional here." For the first time, he looked small. No smirk, no casual shrug, just a dawning recognition that I would not be taken for granted. The honeymoon had started, but it would be on my terms, and he would learn that love and entitlement were not the same. That night, as they retired to the guest room, I felt a mixture of exhaustion and quiet satisfaction. I was no longer just a parent. They were learning a lesson in respect. By the third day of their stay, the honeymoon had lost its charm. My son's casual entitlement and his bride's awkward attempts to smooth things over had created an invisible tension that filled every corner of the house. I kept myself busy in the kitchen and garden, letting them feel the weight of my boundaries without confrontation. That afternoon, I overheard a conversation in the living room. His bride whispered, "He didn't realize how much you've done for him, has he? And he assumed everything would just be given." Her words resonated. The truth was finally sinking in. My son had taken my love and support for granted for too long, and now, faced with my quiet but firm stance, he was beginning to understand the consequences. Later, he approached me hesitantly. "Mom, I didn't think I'd have to teach you respect at this point in your life," I replied gently but firmly. "This house, these things, my care and sacrifices aren't yours to command. If you want to be here, you'll do it with gratitude and consideration." He stood there, stunned, a rare humility crossing his features. For the first time, I saw the boy, who had once relied on me fully, now confronting the reality of my boundaries. He realized that love was not permission to take, and home was not a playground for entitlement. That evening, they helped with dinner without being asked. Small gestures, but meaningful. The shift had begun. My son and his bride were learning that respect could not be assumed. It had to be earned, acknowledged, and demonstrated. For me, it was a quiet victory. I hadn't yelled or argued. I had simply held firm, allowing them to come face to face with their assumptions. And the lesson was finally taking root. By the final day of their stay, the atmosphere had shifted completely. The casual entitlement that had marked their arrival was replaced with respect and a sense of awareness. My son and his bride moved through the house more thoughtfully, no longer assuming everything belonged to them by default. At breakfast, my son approached me quietly. "Mom, I realize now how wrong I was," he said, his voice sincere. "I should have included you in our wedding." I took your love and support for granted, and I'm sorry. I nodded, letting the apology settle between us. Apologies are a start, but actions matter more, I replied. I saw the understanding in his eyes, the realization that family relationships require acknowledgement, gratitude, and respect. Throughout the day, they helped with chores, packed up their belongings, and even left a note expressing gratitude for allowing them into my home. It was a small gesture, but it meant the world. For the first time, the home felt balanced, not because I had yielded, but because they had learned to meet me halfway. As they drove away, I felt a mixture of relief and pride. The honeymoon that had begun with audacity and entitlement had transformed into a lesson in humility and respect. My son had learned that love was not permission to take, and I had shown that boundaries could coexist with compassion. That evening, I sat quietly in the living room, reflecting on the past week. I had been hurt, excluded, and taken for granted. But through patience, firmness, and quiet strength, I had reclaimed my dignity. The house, once a stage for entitlement, had become a classroom for respect. In the end, the lesson was clear. Family bonds are built not on assumption or entitlement, but on recognition, gratitude, and the understanding that true love respects boundaries. And finally, peace returned to my home. Thank you so much for watching this story till the end. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe even learned something from it. If you'd like to hear more stories like this, full of life lessons, drama, and emotions, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you'll never miss an update. Your support means the world, and it helps me keep bringing you more inspiring and unforgettable stories. Stay tuned because more amazing stories are on the way.